Welcome to Life After, a podcast for women to take you from feeling like you're just surviving to thriving, to creating a life you really love. Expect to discover tips and tricks to get there. Each episode will have actionable steps to empower you to make changes. I started this podcast because I've been through it all, from getting out of a marriage with a narcissist to completely rebuilding my life. And now I'm on a mission to help you too. You can change your life. It's absolutely possible. Never underestimate the power you have to take your life in a new direction. Germany, Kent. Women need to shift from thinking, I'm not ready to do that, to thinking, I want to do that, and I'll learn by doing it. Sheryl Sandberg. I learned to always take on things I'd never done before. Growth and comfort do not coexist. Virginia Rometty. She outgrew the version of herself that needed to survive. She was ready to become the version of herself that was going to thrive. Unknown. Transformation begins with self-awareness and the willingness to take responsibility for your own life. Diane Mary Child. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. Maya Angelou. In this episode, we are going to talk about something that so many of us struggle with after we've experienced a hard or toxic relationship. The transition from surviving to actually thriving. For so long, survival is the only goal, right? You get used to putting out fires, managing the chaos, doing what you have to just to get through the day. More importantly, though, and unfortunately, you become accustomed to not getting your own needs met because you're trying so hard to keep the other person in the relationship happy. Whether it's your partner, your boss, a coworker, a family member, or a friend. It's never about you and always about them. Enough becomes enough for all of us in these situations at some point. There is always a turning point. The question is, when you have that moment of calm or quiet, what are you going to do about it so that you can start to move towards thriving? I've noticed something, both in my own journey and in the stories of my clients. There's this space between surviving and thriving that doesn't get talked about enough. I call it rebuilding. It's that in-between stage where you're out of the toxic or narcissistic relationship, but your life isn't quite on track yet. You're safe most of the time, but not fully free. You're functioning, but not yet fulfilled. It's the quiet middle ground where your healing can really start to take root. Today, I want to share how small, steady steps, not giant leaps, are what actually move us forward. Because thriving doesn't happen overnight. It happens one thought, one choice, one action, one small shift at a time. By the way, as a side note, I have just started doing some mindset and narcissist videos a couple of times a week, and you can find me and those videos on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok at Locate Coaching. So again, that's at Locate Coaching. Back to it here. If you've ever felt stuck between where you've been and where you want to go, this episode is really for you. Survival is a skill. It is not Repeat, it is not the destination where you want to stay. When you've lived in survival mode for a long time, your brain learns to prioritize safety, not growth. You're constantly scanning for danger, not opportunity. Now, I am absolutely certainly not trying to shame anyone for that. I was in survival mode for a long, long time, certainly longer than I wanted to be. And in reality, I was also in real denial about being in survival mode for a really long time, too. So I recommend that you take a little time, don't do what I did, which was be in denial, and take a little time and evaluate where you are in your life. Are you currently still in survival mode? And are you there because you're in a relationship that's keeping you stuck there? Or are you in that middle stage of rebuilding where you're no longer in survival mode, but you're not quite thriving yet? Now, P.S., don't worry if you're in the rebuilding stage. You'll get to thriving. Just keep taking those baby steps. This exercise of seeing where you are is so you can really recognize what stage you're in. Survival served you at one point. It kept you safe most of the time. But now you get to build something new. Always remind yourself that survival mode was never meant to be permanent. It was just that bridge or that transition that got you to safety. So next, it's important to know that thriving starts with permission. Before anything can change, you have to give yourself permission to want more. Now, whether that's more peace, more joy, more calm, or more possibility. So many survivors carry the guilt for wanting things to change because we fear that it means we aren't being loyal or we're not sticking to our word, or man, there are going to be so many reasons why we feel this way to either the toxic person who, trust me, has conditioned you to feel how you feel right now, but also to all the other people that we risk losing by following through with a change that we feel is meaningful for us, and so often in so many cases that we feel is mandatory for us, right? It's us or them. If we stay in survival mode for too long, it becomes a matter of it being us or them. Now, I remember I lost several friends during the early days of my divorce. It was really, really painful because some I could no longer trust. They had actively betrayed me to benefit my ex. And some because they were just too directly linked to my ex. It's so, so sad when this happens, and we have to take the time to grieve it. However, know that wanting something more or something different doesn't make you selfish or wrong. It means that you're ready to live again. It means you're ready to step into your life, the space you want to have in very specific ways that work for you. It's a myth as we start really making these transitions. And one of the things that can really slow us down, because it's a myth, that we think the only way we can make change is through big, grand, huge leaps of change. I sometimes refer to this, you'll hear me say, that it's a light switch. And most of the time, we don't go from on to off or the other way around, off to on. The changes we make in our lives do not happen like a light switch. However, because of this myth, we often think that transformation means we have to completely overhaul our lives. And again, this just simply is not the case. Real, true change in our lives comes from micro shifts, consistent small steps that stack up over time. One place we get stuck in this idea is that before we start making these micro shifts, when we lean in and realize that micro shifts are the way to go, we think we have to have every single step mapped out before we start, okay? This is your resistance. Push through it. Because I'm telling you, you don't. You only need to know the next right step for you. And you take that step. And often we won't know what the steps are after that. So we take that first step. We pause. We look around. We evaluate where that step took us. And then we can decide on the next step. Right? Life is not linear. Healing is not linear. So just take the next step. Oddly enough, I didn't plan this, but I just did a mindset video on this. And I don't know what I did for the tag on it when I did the video, but on my end, it was momentum beats motivation every time. And this is to remind us that we don't have to feel ready. We just have to begin. And then the most beautiful part, which I did not put in my video, and I'll have to do a second video to kind of clarify this. The most beautiful part is that when you put momentum and motivation together, when they're working in conjunction with each other, wowza, it makes you completely unstoppable. The next idea is that as you're taking these steps, to focus on your progress, never to focus on perfection. We humans, we are not perfect people. Not any of us, ever. So your transformation and change and your healing, again, they're not linear. Some days you're going to move forward, and others you'll feel like you're back near the start of it all again. Man, those days, just hold on and get through it because the next day will be better. It's okay. Making progress is showing up, even when it's messy, even when it's small. And when you're feeling one of those inevitable lulls, remind yourself that every tiny step counts because it teaches your brain, it trains your brain, and it teaches your heart and your habits that you are capable of doing this and you can keep moving forward. One way to build these habits is to build rituals of hope. Hope gives us agency and willpower and way power, and these are the feelings that we have control over what happens in our life. Habits and hope can be reinforced using daily practices. And again, I'm going to keep coming back to this again and again and again and again. Thriving doesn't come from one big decision, one leap, one light switch on off. It also comes from the daily practices that ground you. Gratitude, movement, affirmations, journaling or writing, or simply just choosing calm over chaos. These are the foundational elements and anchors that keep you moving through your healing and your transformation. They have the added benefit of reminding you who you are becoming. For me, it started with a gratitude practice. And let me just tell you, when I started my gratitude practice, it was really hard to come up with 3 things. And now I've expanded that each morning I come up with a minimum of 10. And often I come up with more than 10. Now, one of the things I find important with your gratitude practice is to really stop and feel it, right? We can jot down a list really quickly, but just take a half a beat to really feel what that gratitude means to you. So then there's always affirmations. And for me, I could just repeat them again and again and again. And there were days that you just have to keep that affirmation front of mind. Create that pattern interrupt with it. I've always been really active, so movement was pretty much already incorporated into my daily routine. However, if that's you, or even if you're starting out, either making your movement longer, extending it, or making it more intentional, both work to really fortify your healing journey. What I mean by that is not to ruminate while you're out walking or running. And I say walking or running so that you're outside in nature, because the connection there is with the movement is super strong. Decide that you're going to focus on something other than your conflict-ridden narcissist or toxic person. Oh man, I laugh because I can't tell you how many conversations I won in my head. So stop trying to do that. Stop trying to win at the same conversation in your head over again. It's not actually helping you to process it. And in fact, it might be creating more trauma for you. So if you're going to go over it again and again and again, if you're doing that in your head, try to turn that off a little bit. Find those pattern interrupts. And you can do that instead by focusing on what you really want your life to look like. What do you want? Remember, we're always asking that question. What do I want? Or start daydreaming about who you want to be or who you're becoming. Or just simply start envisioning yourself walking away in those situations that are difficult or challenging or full of conflict. Remind yourself as you're moving that you can win the conversation by not defending yourself any longer. By saying, okay, remember, that's a great strategy. Okay, okay, okay. Or just envision yourself staying calm. Any and all of these practices are going to help rewire your brain for a better outcome when you are actually faced with dealing with your toxic person or narcissist. I remember near the end of my last job, and things were getting really emotionally overwhelming for me. My boss was yelling at me and demanding I have a conversation with her. And I finally was able. I slowed myself down. I put my feet firmly on the ground to ground myself through the earth. I slowed myself down, even though she was a freight train. And I simply said, I'm not doing this any longer. So if you're gonna, while you're out moving, use that time intentionally to decide how in that real moment you can really shift something. And let me tell you, it is so unbelievably empowering in that moment, even when you're terrified, even when you're shaking, even when you don't know what kind of response you're going to get from your narcissist or your toxic personality. The empowerment is by and far worth taking that risk. So, any of these ideas can be the thing that creates that space that you want in order to change your patterns, just like I just described, and create this amazing life without the conflict from your narcissist or the toxic personality. This next piece, I really love this idea, and I'm hoping it resonates with you too, because this one really hit me for a long time. Your story isn't defined by who or what broke you. It's defined by what you're doing now, what you're building now. Every single time you choose to get up, to try again, to believe in something better, you are actively moving towards thriving. And you're already doing it. A great affirmation option for this is, thriving is a daily choice I make to show up differently than I did before. You've already done the hardest part. You survived. You've made it through things you once thought you'd never recover from. I invite you now to start living again for you, not in those giant leaps, but in small, steady shifts that remind you of how capable you really are. Start small, start now. Momentum will carry you forward, and then it will give you motivation until they are this complementary cycle, which is an unbeatable combination. You've got this, and you're not walking alone. This podcast is a valuable resource for anyone seeking to make meaningful changes in their life. I'm here to support you on your unique journey, offering guidance and encouragement every step of the way. There will be new episodes, even when we're sick, on the second and fourth Wednesday every month. Please follow on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss any episodes. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode on moving out of survival mode and toward thriving. Remember, you deserve a life that feels peaceful, joyful, and truly yours. And it all begins with that first brave step forward. As we wrap up, here's the thing. I've made every mistake. I've literally been there and done that. It's one step at a time, and you'll get there. There's hope. You've got this. If you're struggling in a relationship and wondering if it might be controlling, you're not alone. Download my free PDF at locatecoaching.com/free gift to help you find clarity and confidence. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you soon.